Yes, people, how you doing? Welcome back to multi-stream time, Spurs Talk Show, Football Inc., live on Twitter, links out on Instagram, and will be updated and uploaded after the show onto Spotify too. If you are interested in all that stuff, links are in the description. Make sure you get over there and follow Jonny H3232 over on Twitter. Make sure you follow Talking Tottenham 1882 on Instagram too. Jonny, how you doing, mate? We got some interesting news out for us this morning. Well, it actually came out yesterday, but I didn't really get too much of a chance to actually go through it in detail. And given that the content topic is a bit of your passion project, I thought better to speak about it with you, my man. How you doing?
Yeah. It's funny. I was on Last Word of Spurs last night talking about the complete opposite of what we're talking about now. We're talking about the fact that he was going and what big loss it was. So I hadn't seen the news that Levy was desperately trying to scupper the move to AC Milan, which would be fantastic news. Where was the news anyway, Sean? It
was banded around. It started off in Give Me Sport, which is more exclusive than Bugsy Milan's OnlyFans account. And then it's been subsequently shared by a few of the aggregators. It hasn't made it into many of the mainstream, although the Sunday Mirror brought out a Monday report on it as well. So, or Sunday night report, Monday morning. I saw it this morning. And essentially, as you can tell by the thumbnail, I couldn't do the thumbnail without whilst having room for me and you in there as well. So essentially, it's a tug of war, it looks like, mate. And that Milan have tentatively agreed a deal, but that Daniel Levy doesn't want to let his man go. And obviously, it's a difficult one because Daniel Levy had to go into different directions with regards, we spoke about this before, like with regards to the complexity of how can you have a guy that's on a ban really be the front and center of the strategy. Plus there's the data idea or whatever that I know we're going to talk about in detail in a second. But in a nutshell, the story is that there is a potential, however big, however small, but that the deal isn't signed with Paratici going to Milan, even though it's been agreed in principle. It might be Paratici doing what Paratici does for the clubs that he works for, where he spins a few plates, but this time he's doing it for himself and his own career, where he goes and shakes hands on deals in order to get another person to move the needle.
Well,
so he might be, we don't know, but essentially classic Daniel Levy has to make the decision. Yeah, classic Fabio. So I've gone from Don Paratici to Gon Paratici. Sorry, Don Paratici to Con Paratici to Gon Paratici. So now it's back on Paratici. And listen, at the end of the day, like Daniel Levy has a big decision to make. And that decision is probably going to be, if you want me, Daniel, then get rid of JOHAN Lange and let me come back in and unwind some of the bad decisions that have been made. And I want to get your take on it. Before we do, Jonny, let me just say hello to the 5 or 6 people that have come in and commented. Lisa, big up to you, Lisa. It must be middle of the night, I guess, in Mexico. I don't know what the time is over there, but I hope you're well and healthy and happy.
You're waking up now. Waking up early morning, probably.
Waking up early morning time. Destiny 5's in the house. Afternoon, my lovelies. Good to see you, Destiny. How we doing? All says easy. Steve UK, good to see you, Steve. Just spoke to you on the phone, mate. Looking forward to speaking to you soon. Ryan Trestane, where could we go if we get Big Don back? We were going to talk about that. Boy from the lane, bring me back the Don. Afternoon, lads. Good for Paratici. JOHAN Lange hasn't been great, says Saya Fakir. I think that's how you say your name. No disrespect if it isn't. It's a nice name, though. It's a lovely name. And Lisa is 8 a.m. not too early. Lovely. There you go. Jonny, mate, listen, like I say, I can't show you the story because I can't do multi things on this iPad. It's useless. But that's basically the nuts and bolts of it, mate. So tell me, I just look quickly. I put out a poll on last night's show doing the ones and zeros game, asking the question, trying to play a little bit of devil's advocate. Like, I know you're going to disagree with me here, but you're right too. But I said, look, possibly Fabio is a little bit more archaic, old school in his methodologies, and maybe Lange, maybe Scott Munn are a little bit more of the new age tech stuff. I'm going to let you go where you want with it. But in the idea, the argument of the ones and zeros game, just consider that maybe bringing back Fabio and getting rid of JOHAN might also mean some sort of disruption to whatever data model we're using. And you know what? There was one person out of about 60 or 50 responses that chose zero representing, let's go with JOHAN. Everybody else wanted Fabio. So you're on the popular side of this one, Jonny. Go where you want with it, mate. What do you think?
Just for people wondering, have I gone all Stevie Wonder and lost my eyesight? Is the the sun's out in London, a rarity, but it's out today. And it's shining right in my eyes at the moment, so hopefully I'll take these off very soon. Yeah, look, where do you go with this one? Maybe he's spinning plates, because we know when Don Fabio or Con Fabio, whichever line you take, would always be, involved with, say, 3 centre-backs and 3 midfielders and 2 goalkeepers. What I do know is, when I look at the crux of the team and the mainstay of our team currently, Sean, I see a team which is, for all sense and purposes, a Paratici team, more or less. When you look at what are we looking at here? We're looking at Romero, Vicario, Destiny, Papassar,
Kulu,
Bentancur. These are, you could probably go deeper, but these are sort of the mainstay of the team. Not to mention that
well, it'd be quicker to actually name the JOHAN Lange signings, right? So Bergvall, Archie Gray, Jed Spence was under Paratici's time as well.
Paratici, yeah.
So how many signings has?
Well, he's made some classics, hasn't he? 65 million for Dom Solanke. Now, I mean, that took a lot of
Solanke,
It took a lot of data to work that one out. Brennan Johnson. We needed the data to pay.
Was Johnson? Yeah. So how long is is this his second season or his first season, Lange? My timelines are all screwed up in my head.
1.5, isn't it? 1.5, I think it is.
So it's been this is his second season. Is that okay? Fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Where are we going? Listen, Lucas Bergvall, going to give him props for that, because that was a top signing, and bringing him in at 8 million, fantastic. But Archie Gray, listen, I wanted Archie Gray. You don't need to be a data specialist to have identified Adam Walton or Archie Gray, or some of the other Hayden Hackney, right? We know them, right? We're not data specialists.
Joe Bellingham,
we know what they are with our eyes, yeah.
Credits where it's due with Lucas Bergvall, because I wasn't aware of him. Not many.
Well, I was going to say that I will give him full props for that. I'm not understanding why he lent on Fabio to help him get the Radu Dragusin deal over the line, because obviously he knows the family. He bought Radu to Juventus at the same time as Kulu and Bentancur. They were there. There's that picture of the 3 of them there. And he's friendly with Radu's parents, are all Olympic athletes. So he rested on him to bring that deal there. But why would you sign a player, quite honestly, who plays in a back 3, a traditional centre of a back 3 or to the right of a back 3, to then have him playing a high line, high intent, a completely system alien to him, which doesn't suit him.
Well, I guess that harks back. It's to defend that notion. It harks back to are you buying the players for the manager, or are you buying the players for the clubs? And when it comes to young players that are the up and
who got on the phone? I get you, but who got on the phone? Where did we see? What did we see about him? He got on the phone. We hear that Ange got on the phone, and Ange was the deciding factor in stopping him going to Bayern Munich. Yeah, he was the man.
That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah. So, I'm not really going to accept that. Look, what Fabio did in the early days.
Ange was probably the deciding factor in the Bergvall deal as well. Then, right? Is that what we're giving him credit? We're giving Ange credit for all these.
I would say. Well, listen, when I hear people say that none of these are his signings, and yet he's come out specifically right at the early doors. There will be no player coming in or leaving this club without my say-so. I will be in control of who comes in. After all, what goes on. But, he desperately wanted Johnson. That was the player that he wanted more than any other.
Yeah, someone here is. Some people here are saying
he might be right, actually.
But Johnson was before.
You might be right. You might be right, actually.
I seem to remember Johnson being, but then there was a gap when Paratici was the consultant, but we didn't really have a director of football, right? So who organised the Johnson? If it wasn't Lange and Paratici was just a consultant, was he more than a consultant, or was that a Daniel Levy's
what happened
deal?
was,
What was that one then with Johnson?
Yeah, no, so basically what happened was when he arrived, he had a list of the players that he wanted. He wanted Gallagher. You know, that wasn't going to happen. He tried again, as we know, this summer. He wanted Maddison and he wanted Johnson. It was really against how Levy's forever operated to go and pay £47 million for Brennan Johnson when he'd agreed a deal with Forest, Brentford had, to pay £35 million. Johnson rejected it because he didn't want to go there. And we ended up having to pay £47 million.
Yeah.
Which I think was a poor deal.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying it now. I'm just saying if I got it wrong, you might well be right. But what I'm saying
the timelines are difficult though, because it are we giving this is it's fine. It's fine. So like none of us are like encyclopedias, are we? So like, we might make mistakes, but like Paratici's absence from being involved in direct meetings, if you believe that, then who was it that organised the Johnson strategy? Like Ange might have wanted him.
Well,
Ange wasn't negotiating the deal. So who negotiated the deal is what I'm asking. I'm not sure.
Ange spoke to Listen, Ange spoke to Johnson, spoke to his dad, he spoke to him and told him that he was what he wanted. He spoke to Maddison as well to get him to come to the club. So look, it is what it is. Listen, not everything Paratici has done has been correct. You know, you look at Brian Gill, Richarlison, you know, injury-wise has been a disaster, but you weren't to know that at the time. But on the whole, who
got Van der Ven? Who organised? So if everyone after, if what Easy's saying here is true, that
Mickey Van der Ven was Fabio.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah,
well, that's the best one of them all. If he could stay fit.
Look at Vicario. Look at you know what happened with Vicario. You know, when everyone wanted Raya. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was all the complaints and cheap Levy signing, typical. And you know, that noise was silenced very quickly. But you look at the purchases. Papa Sarr, 12 million. How much is he worth now on the open market? Destiny, 15 million. How much is he worth? Destiny was done with the help of Gabbanini, who bought him to Udinese. It was working with Udinese and Watford at the time when Fabio brought him in. And
Gabbanini's still out of the club, right? Gabbanini still hasn't got a club right now.
Correct. Well, he thought he was going to be DOF, didn't he?
Do you think if there was any truth to this story? And again, like, I don't know. Like, I always get criticism. Later on, I've got to call out the funniest constructive criticism I've ever seen in a comment from last night's show. It was it was pretty brutal, but it was hilariously and very well written. But like, I get a hell of a lot of criticism in the comment sections from my transfer news views and clues from people going, mate, dream on, wake up, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. None of these things matter. Until you get a new manager or new owners, all this. Well, I'm just like, guys, I'm literally just collating all of the other people's content, right? Other journalists or whatever you want to call them. And I'm just telling you what's in it, because you might not have the time or the access to all the blogs. So that's all I'm doing. And then I get so much like, Sean, you're just making shit up, clickbait merch. I'm just telling you what other people are doing. I'm not doing it.
Well, listen, look, all you need to know, guys, is renewal time. And if you think that clubs don't get involved in slipping a little news story, Spurs have been. If the stories are to be believed in the papers, we should have a squad bigger than Chelsea's by the summer, with the amount of players that we've been linked with. But look, a lot of the comments that I made going back 3 years ago or more about the work that Fabio was doing behind the scenes, you know, bringing in Gabby, Steinson, Scalding, and the rest, and what they were doing with the academy, getting rid of all those kids who were never going to be part of the first team ever. Instagram kids, we called it. A lot of uproar about that. Got rid of them, restructured all of that, and then started scouting 15 to 19-year-olds. When you look at the amount of talent that went from our borough, from Haringey Borough, went to Arsenal, went to West Ham, went to Chelsea, right on our doorstep, that we missed because our scouting and the way it was operating was poor.
And that started with Hitchin, did it? Was that Hitchin that organised that?
I mean, David Pleat was involved, but he's not leading it. Do you know what I mean? He's advising and giving hints as to which players to watch, old school. But my point here is that there was a lot of uproar about that, and the problem is when you're doing stuff like that, fans like us, older fans, we're not interested in what's going on down there because that's only of relevance to us when fans see a player come onto the pitch, score a goal or do something exceptional. Until that time, unless you, like myself and others who follow the under-18s, under-21s, you've got absolutely no interest in the regeneration of the youth and what's coming in. And our recruitment policy was 15 to 19-year-olds, academy, all the way through to potential first team, so that we have a conveyor belt of talent. And then we had the situation with Romain Mundell, who was going to leave the club and did leave the club because he didn't feel that there was a pathway and the money and all the rest of it. And Fabio and co managed to convince Daniel, if you want to build an academy, there's no point building an academy if you're not going to pay the players because they'll just go elsewhere. It's all about money at the end of the day with a lot of these kids. And so we up the money.
Do you know how does that look? I know we've spoken about this many times, but I've always wanted to go into the rabbit hole with it. And there's a guy actually who reached out to me, Jonny, on Twitter, who used to be a coach at Tottenham. I think he was coaching at Tottenham ladies, and he was involved with the club back in like the early 2000s. And he said he'd like to come on and chew the fat with you and Dave and myself about the youth structure. So I said, yeah, that sounds cool. We're going to do that next week, hopefully. But one of the questions I'm happy to front run it and just ask you now. When it comes to, you're talking about like the argument that you can't, you're going to build an academy that's built on sand unless you pay the money. But the fact that these kids are 16, 15, 14 years old, they're not able to sign professional contracts until they're 18. Was it a law change, or was it just a skirting around the rules that you're paying the father? Because I know that in Barcelona and Real Madrid, I think that Lionel Messi was brought over to Barcelona when he was like 12 or 8 or something. And I'm pretty sure that they employed his father as like a quote unquote scout or whatever. But obviously it's just like a permanent job to say thank you for whatever, like you scratch our back. So when it comes to Paratici convincing Daniel Levy to get on board a payment restructuring of these young players, but baking in the fact that you can't pay kids that money, how did that look? Do you know how it looked?
Well, no, I mean, I'm talking, look, there's always been, since time immemorial, getting around things, especially if you're bringing kids from abroad, paying the parents, paying for the house so the parents can stay there and all their expenses to look after the kid, to make sure the player is on the right track and doesn't go astray. A 16-year-old like running around in London, getting involved with the wrong, all that sort of stuff, right? You can manage that. But when they are allowed, I'm talking about the contracts they are allowed to sign when they come of age.
The one that Mikey Moore signed was a 3-year deal, right?
Ange, the Callum Oluwase's, right? The 17s, that sort of time when you can start signing, pre-pro and all the rest of it. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Offering them, a more reasonable contract. Listen, it's not just about money. It's not just about money. It's also about an opportunity. And I do think that time will tell whether Tel will be an asset to this club. Personally, I don't want to sign Tel because I think, he's 19 years of age. Why, when we already have Yang, Son, and Mikey Moore, do we want to buy and spend 50 to 60 million pounds on another left-sided winger that could potentially block the progress of players? And especially of someone of Mikey Moore's ilk. Because I do believe that if Skelly of Arsenal and Nwani had been at Spurs,
they wouldn't have emerged.
They would not have emerged, bar an injury crisis. They would not have emerged. You know, Arsenal have. I'm not even going to go into the players.
But isn't that the same with isn't Skelly's emergence because of injuries at Arsenal as well?
Yeah, but he was
and wary as well, right? Because Saka's injured for the season.
He was always he was.
I know he's always been highly touted. We saw him at the Arsenal Tottenham game, didn't we, last season in the under-18s or whenever it was. So I know he's always been like a touted talent. Same with Mikey Moore, but you know, out of adversity comes opportunity, and for the most part, these emerging talents do get their chance because of an injured player that's in their way traditionally, right?
Look, the difference is Arsenal have got the conveyor belt of talent that even if you don't make it, you know, someone like Eddie Nketiah has gone for £30 million. Alex Iwobi, 35 million when he went to Everton. You know, these are players that you think, oh, well, they never made it, Arsenal. It doesn't matter. When you're bringing in 25, 30, 35 million pounds on a regular basis for these players. But players do come through. And let me tell you, they've got some other exceptional talents coming through now. That's why you get so many players like going off to Germany, you know, wanting to do it. But look, we've signed a lot of the kids, but I'm not so sure whether or not I do worry that if this manager stays and we don't have Europe, where are the kids going to go? Where is the game time going to come from? Because you're limited to how many, you know, players.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And I was having this conversation with Adrian last night. I think that there is limited value to. Don't get me wrong. I think that Donnelly and the goalkeeper, his name escapes me. Keeley, sorry, correct. They've done very good things at Leyton Orient, and it's nice to have local clubs that you can have relationships with, for sure. I would also just make the argument that it's not quite as much of a life lesson. And I said this last night, so I'm not going to hark on it, but as, say, what Troy Parrott had going out to Holland, right, where you're playing competitive football at the top level and you're kind of embracing all of the difficulties of acclimating to a new country, new climate, new currency, new language, new culture, all of those things. If you can handle it, you're better off for the experience than you are traveling 3 miles down the road to Leyton Orient and also playing at a lower level. I think that Tottenham's one of Tottenham's biggest, lowest hanging fruits that hasn't yet been taken advantage of. And I don't understand why Scott Munn hasn't been pushing this notion, because of his experience in that regard, is to have whether it's a multi-club ownership thing, maybe there's costs associated with that Tottenham don't have the budget for right now because we're trying to find money for things like hotels. But if it doesn't have to be buying a club or stake in a club, it can just be like an agreement like that you used to have, feeder club relationships. And I think that I'd love to see Tottenham go and get a relationship with a team in Sweden or a team in Belgium or a team, whatever, and just be able to kind of have these people go out and play first team men's football in a league and a club that suits what we're trying to achieve, i.e., aggressive football that somewhat represents the Premier League, but also, a team that plays attractive football and possession-based football, all those things. I'm not necessarily sure that you get all of the juice that's from the squeeze that you would do if you just have these relationships with Plymouth and with Leyton Orient. I don't know what your take is on that.
Well, listen, we've got Divine and Vukovic who are playing their trade in Belgium, in the Belgium league right now. So, there is, that has happened. He went to a lower league, went to Port Vale, and then he's gone out to Belgium. Listen, I don't want to bring them up again, but, we spoke about the Brighton model today, and, the way
Jonny, we're going on a 2-hour fight, are we?
No, but I'm just saying, because, they spent about £160 million in the summer, and not all of those players have come into the squad. A lot of some of these players, the German striker, I think is still out in Nuremberg, really highly rated player. But they have, it's quite interesting that, when you think of ENIC, when it started off as a multi-club model, where it had Sparta Prague, Glasgow Rangers and others, and And then you have a situation where, that wasn't allowed. You got rid of all the clubs. Now it is allowed. And you've got clubs like Brighton who own, they got relationships and owners of multiple clubs.
Not just Brighton. I think there's more teams now that in the Premier League with a multi-club scenario than don't, right? You've got Bournemouth, Chelsea, Manchester United still technically do, even though they're not really. Obviously, Newcastle, you can infer that they do with their Saudi links. So that's what Nottingham Forest, another team that does. Fulham, I think, have got one as well. No, actually, no, Fulham don't. I mean, there's loads of them. There's loads. Crystal Palace for sure do. There's loads and loads and loads of teams now. More teams have a multi-club role than don't. And Tottenham were the groundbreakers on that whole model.
We're behind.
Now we're miles behind. And unfortunately, this is something I hold Daniel Levy to. That he speaks to the fire for, because he was an early adopter of that model, but he didn't break the rules. The line crossed him or us, right? And he was forced to sell. And like you correctly say, I've spoken about it many times. It's an absolute disgrace and a farce to think that, like the Red Bull system, for example, just because you have an umbrella ownership, but you have Chinese walls and established management practices, that there's no overlap and conflicts of interest. Leipzig and Salzburg have got more trading between those two clubs in the history of their relationship than between any other two clubs in the history of European football. It's a ridiculous notion to think that there's not something that's you scratch my back, I scratch yours. In fact, United do, because of their Sir Jim Ratcliffe and
do you not
Marseille,
think,
or whoever it was.
Do you not think though that Levy, having seen the opportunity and been, the forebearer, the leader of this model, once the rules had changed, that he would have used some money to then instigate actually buying a smaller club and doing what Brighton and the rest have done, because then you could see a situation whereby we're sending Carlos Veliz out to Belgium, or we're sending Alfie Dorrington to Belgium or Spain or wherever our club may be, to form the start of the club and get them practice. Because look, I go to the clubs, I go to the under 21s, under 18s, and you see them and you go, oh, it's fantastic. But I'm a realist, that level of football, whilst you're competing age for age, the step up.
Yeah, it's massive.
Is absolutely massive. And
one of the biggest mistakes that the Premier League made was getting rid of the reserve team system. Because that was a situation where you did have players that were out of form, dropping down, a 28-year-old, and you could do whatever you wanted, and the gap was so much closer between the reserves versus whatever they call it now, the PL2. It's not. It's a bunch of kids, and you're right, mate. Like the space that players are afforded, they can look like worldies, but they step up, and it's just the gap is too big to judge whether they're ready. I
mean, I remember Josh Onomar back in the day, where Josh Onomar was meant to be the next big thing, along the same time as Reece Nelson.
Wayne Routledge, there's loads of them.
But I mean, look, when you look at Josh Onomar, he never fulfilled his potential, because it's all about the mind as well. It's not just about ability. If you look through the academy, the amount of players that never made it with unbelievable ability, but they didn't have the application, or they didn't have the mindset, or were too easily distracted with outside influences and stuff like that. And then you have other players who were unremarkable. Bostock is another one. I mean, it's like the girl who at school was never remarkable, and then you see her 5 years later and she's drop dead gorgeous,
Yeah. She's all that. She's all that.
She was like, the one everyone took the piss out of. But, football there's plenty of players, workmanlike players who've worked to their game, who are thorough professionals, eat it, live it, drink it. And, they've had fantastic careers, and, that step up. And that's why I was going back to the Brighton, how they monitor not only
everything.
Not only do they scout the player, the mentality of the player, their background, their family background, and then they look at them when they interview the player. Where could we send this player with his style? What sort of club do we want to send him to? And then they have a whole department at Brighton where they are monitoring the loan. So they're calling the player, like, how are you getting on? everything, right? It's almost like being a nanny. And I feel that quite often in the past, it's got better, but Spurs were guilty of, putting players into clubs that should never have been there, who never get a game, whose style is completely wrong for the player. Dane Scarlett's been on a few early loans that were absolute disaster. It's not an easy thing to get right, because sometimes you can go and you can speak to a manager, I love the player, and then 6 games in, he's doing crap, he's been sacked, and another guy comes in and he's not part and parcel of the...
Well, not just that, right? Not just that, but the new manager has to see the value immediately in the player, because otherwise it becomes a conversation just like with Mathys Tel. Are we developing the player just to send him back for them to benefit from it? What's the point, right? But you have to see the value, and if the player doesn't acclimate immediately, then that manager, again, same with Ange and the Mikey Moore situation. If you're good enough, you're old enough. Yeah. But if you're not doing it, then I don't really care about Mikey Moore being 17, because if I lose this game with him in the squad versus Mathys Tel or whoever else, then I'm going to lose my job. And Tottenham don't give a shit about me. They only care about me when I'm winning for them. And so it's the same with loans, right? Like if Dane Scarlett doesn't hit the ground running somewhere, then the manager's going to be like, well, he's not helping me, so why do I care about Tottenham? Why do I care about Scarlett? And that's unfortunately just the way the world works. People like Jamie Donnelly, though, have gone and just smashed it, and that's why he's the first name on their team sheet every week. But the problem for me is, just like looking at the under 18, under 21s. Yes, the next logical step for some of them, if you're not sure are they ready, are they not ready, the next logical step was to send him out on loan. But then you're going, well, I still don't know whether Jamie Donnelly's ready for the Premier League. He might be, but he's absolutely too good for League One. But there's a whole league in between League One and the Premier League, of which, do you waste a year giving him out on loan to somewhere else, where if the environment, not his talent, but if the environment of going to a team in the Premier League, in the Championship, isn't quite as nice, if the dressing room doesn't quite, receive him on the same, but if he doesn't make friends in it, all that stuff can make Jamie Donnelly, his development struggle a little bit. And then you go, well, he's not ready, but maybe he is ready. It's just the place that you sent him. Like, there's so many variables to consider when you're analysing the success or failure of these players in their various stages of their growth.
Listen, look, he's got CAA behind him, Donnelly. He will be advised properly. I was quite surprised when they said, that they're going to have to go out on loan to get game time. I thought before Mikey came along, Jamie Donnelly was the shining light of the academy. This is a player that played just about every position other than goalkeeper, which was probably music to Ange's ears, because pre-season, I'm thinking, Donnelly's in the squad. Fantastic. We're going to see him as a 10. We're going to see him on the flank. We're going to see some exciting football. He's playing him at left back. It was a bit of a letdown. Next season, he's ripping up.
Same can be applied for Viscovic, right? It's the same for everyone, right? Like when you send a player out, wherever you send them, I personally believe that going abroad, as I said on last night's show, not to harp back on it, but like I became a very much a better version of myself for my experiences living on 3 or 4 different continents. But the best lessons I learned was where I was least happy. Like Australia, when I arrived in Australia, a guy that I met just plugged me into his life and introduced me to his mates, and it was just so seamless. He gets me a job opportunity. I take the job. The crowd in there was just young and fun, and it was an awesome work-life balance. Everything was beautiful. It felt like home within 30 seconds of me getting off the plane. 2 years later, the success of that environment, I got the opportunity to move to America, chose New York. On reflection, it was probably the worst place to choose, because New Yorkers don't really care about you. They care about themselves, because it's a dog-eat-dog environment. And it was really, really hard. It was like a lonely as hell place to be. And I became a little bit insular. But you know what? If I look back and where I am today, the lessons I learned from New York were far more valuable than the lessons I learned in Australia, because you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes in life. 100%. And my point is that going to Holland for Viscovic is probably better than going to somewhere else in London, but you still don't know what you don't know. You still like the things that are going to dictate his success or failure. If it's been easy for him in Holland, then maybe it would have been better to go somewhere where you struggled. You know, I don't know. You know, we don't know, but hopefully we've got a good player there. Hopefully, do you think he's ready to come into the Prem?
I'll tell you what I think about Vuskovic. Right, there is no doubt. Right, it's the most anyone's played for a player of that age. Vuskovic, he has everything going for him. There's one thing he doesn't have, and that is he's not blessed with pace. Right, he's great in the air. Great feet, great passing. He's not great pace. Now, there's no way he's playing the high line under this manager. If you put him in, this is what I'm saying, is horses for courses. You know, if you put him or Radu or in a traditional back three or a traditional back four, I think they're fine. I think they'll be fine. And Vuskovic is the same. So if you're asking me, could he play under Ange in this current system? I believe no. I don't believe he's quick enough to play that. But he has fantastic attributes. And bearing in mind that most centre-backs don't really come through unless they're absolutely exceptional, 22, 23, and then they start to, you know, and they mature at 26. You know, if you look at someone exceptional like Dean Huijsen, at Bournemouth, he's exceptional. You know, he's absolutely exceptional. Brilliantly scouted by Bournemouth and Iriola, you know. But you know, we've bought Ashley Phillips. You know, Ashley Phillips is 6'4". He's very quick. He could probably play the high line.
Where's he at now?
Stoke. Yeah, he's playing at Stoke.
How's he getting on? Is he playing?
Yeah, he's playing a lot of games. He's playing a lot of games. You know, it will be the making of him. But, you know, what I'm saying is if Spurs keep producing and bringing through these players, they will have a value. If they don't make it to us, they'll still be worth 15, 14 million, whatever. I mean, and then you have a part of the sell-on clause. I mean, look at Oliver Skipp. How did we get 20 million pounds? The person who managed to get 20 million pounds for Oliver.
That was JOHAN Lange, was it? We give him some credit.
I know. Well, I think I can't believe anyone paid 20 million. He can't even get into the team.
Yeah, but again, it's a you know, the English tax thing, right? Like every club needs these, you know.
But what I'm saying is when you're looking for another revenue stream to give you extra money to spend for the market, right? Yeah. So if you go and spend 150 million pounds, but you manage to sell talent that's not quite good enough for you, and you manage to raise 60, 70 million, happy days.
Well, that's how Brighton spent as much as they did in the summer, right? Because they were using the Caicedo money, the Lavia money. No, not the Lavia money. The other one they
Southampton.
Sorry, Caicedo and who else did they sell?
Fucking McAllister, you name it.
McAllister, that's it. McAllister. There you go. Yeah.
I think they've sold 200 million pounds worth of sixes to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Enzo, not Enzo. Who have they sold now?
Caicedo.
Who else?
They sold another one.
Hang on.
And there's also McAllister they sold as well.
Cucurella they sold.
Yeah. And they've still managed to be competitive. You know, I'm not going to go back on that debate we had. I still maintain this notion. I still think there's a long track record of seeing teams that do well enough to get into Europe 1 year, then have to play 2 games a week. They then drop off a little bit. And, you know, we'll see if that changes with Newcastle. And Aston Villa are doing a good job right now. What are they? 3 points off of the Champions League and in the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
They're 9th, aren't they?
Yeah, but the gap between 10th and 4th is 4 points or something silly, right? So
I think there's something like
that. I think they're 10. I think they're 11th.
No,
whatever. The only team that I care about is Tottenham, and we're miles off, aren't we? But
we're fighting. We are fighting joint 16th, aren't we?
Yeah. Look, I wanted to ask you this, mate. Like, I did want to ask you this. In fact, before I do, I'll make a note in my mind, and I'll come back to it. Let's just get through this because there's a few other stories I want to talk about with you as well that have popped up today. But
what are we saying? Hang on, before we go, guys, are we saying that Fabio has been a success and we'd like to see him back? Or are we saying he hasn't been a success and we're quite happy to go with Lange? So if you're listening,
ones and zeros.
The chat. So 1 for Paratici, 0 for JOHAN Lange. 1 for Paratici, 0 for JOHAN Lange. Just to get a feed on on this before we move on. So,
and what? Yeah, well, I've still got a couple more questions I want to ask you about this whole story. With regards Paratici, we'll find out in a second. I think you can see it already. Just one. Everyone wants the Don to stay. Again, like, I don't know if the story is true. Right? I've got no idea. You might find out later on today. Paratici signs the deal, and everyone's going to mud me. But I'm just telling you what I saw in the papers. With regards Paratici, do you think that there's any compromise? Like, it's not a 100% clean story, right? We've gone down the youth-centric model, but I personally would subscribe to the notion that we've got enough kids, we've got enough talent that we're not. I don't want to cop block anyone anymore. I want to see what Mikey Moore's made of. I want to see what Jamie Donner's made of. I want to see what Vescovic can do. Ash Phillips. I want to see what these players can do. But at the same time, I still think that Tottenham can't go into next season with a squad that looks too much like it currently does, even if some of these players do break through, because some of them won't mature. Some of them. I was talking about this on last night's show as well. I know you're a massive fan of Eberechi Eze, right? And I know everyone is a massive fan of Eberechi Eze. There's a lady in the stream last night who said, just quietly, I don't rate Eze as much as everyone else does. And I happen to agree with her. And we had a little discussion about it. And my thoughts on it are that a lot of people, like, they'll see someone emerging at a team that's not their own. Then they'll hear the stories about David Pleat, referenced this kid when he was 16 and Tottenham should have signed him, could have signed him, didn't sign him from QPR, whatever. And then he emerges, breaks onto the scene, gets into the England team. But because then, like, he's injured for a little while and he's now a first team regular, but in a team that's not your own, you don't really pay that much close attention to him week in, week out. But because you formally forged an opinion on the guy that he is a top player, because of his initial trajectory, if the trajectory then kind of tapers off a little bit, people aren't aware of it and they still remember the opinion that they forged a while ago, and people get attached to these opinions too strongly, too quickly. And I just think that Eberechi Eze hasn't kicked on to quite the same level as that initial. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying he's dropped. I'm just saying that the ramp up has tapered off. And I think that you can make that same probable assumption with a lot of Tottenham's young players as well, because a lot of them will flash, will flatter to deceive, will smash it out the park, various formats of those concepts. But it's not what you do at 17, 18, is it? That's what makes people aware of you. It's what you do at 19, 20, 21. And for me, I just think that, going down the youth-centric approach is fine, but we've got enough of that now. We need to sprinkle in some talent, replace some older players and buy some older players. And on that basis, I'm more on the page of Paratici coming back, not just because I like Paratici more than Lange, but I feel like we've got the youth, we've got the nucleus now. And you don't need data to find 27-year-olds. We should all be aware of the 27-year-olds that can help us.
And Kulus you're talking about, yeah? Bringing them in, game changers who straight away change the club. Away.
But for me personally, I'd get rid of Bentancur. But I'm talking about, like, a David Hanko, for example. He's 27 years old, right? Or even like a Serhu Guirassy, 28, 29 years old, who'll be in the summer. I was wrong about Serhu Guirassy. I said it when we were linked with him before. I said, I think the guy's clumsy. He's banging the goals. He's a late bloomer. Is it a one-off? Is it a one-season wonder? Or is he just generally a late developer? I've looked into him in detail, and I think the guy's just a bit clumsy. He's clumsy and he's fortunate. Right place, right time, which isn't something you can necessarily dismiss, because you have to know where the ball's going to be in the right place at the right time. But then I've watched him this season, and Jesus Christ, Jonny, that guy is absolutely insane. His hang time in the air, he's like an NBA basketball player. He jumps and he takes him like 10 seconds to land. It's wild. He's got 12 goals in the Champions League, right? Playing for I think it's Eindhoven he plays for now. I think he left Stuttgart. He's playing in the Dutch league. But like, so obviously I get loads of these things wrong. But to me, I'm like, you don't need data to spot a 27-year-old. If you are if you're a director of football and that's your day job, you should be aware of every 27-year-old that's kicking goals in Europe. And Tottenham do not need another 19-year-old. We've got enough. We've got enough for a decade, right?
The thing is, Sean, this is all very well and good, when you identify an individual, but the individual has to suit the style of football. Now, I believe that when you buy a player, you have to make sure that if we get rid of Ange, the next manager must be playing a similar style, not similar, not the same, but that forward attacking style. So that
possession based, yeah.
Yeah, so that the players that you're purchasing will fit somewhat the next manager coming in, rather than having attacking, defensive. Going back to Eze, Eze didn't start at the beginning of the season, right? Had an injury, and Crystal Palace were absolutely shocking. But since he came back just between us. He got stamped on, and he had nerve damage to the foot. Right?
Okay.
No
just between us, he says in front of 500 people.
Yeah. I mean, my point is, like, you know, he didn't play for quite a while. He didn't play for quite a while.
That's hilarious.
No, yeah. But you know what I mean. Like, you know, he didn't play for quite a while.
Just between us and the entire internet.
Yeah. Anyway, so he didn't play for quite a while, and then he's playing at Hopper. But look at Palace since he's come back, and he's back on song. You know, he's in the England squad for a reason.
Yeah.
Know? I mean, that was when he was out. Do you know what I mean? It's not between us because he didn't play. So
no, of course, I know. I'm not saying he's a bad player, by the way.
What I'm saying to you is, look at Palace's form right now. That Eze and Adam Walton are in the team, and you know, even since that horrendous tackle, they're still, you know, delivering the results. And I just think that you're right, where you need experience. But for me, I would rather, honestly, I'd rather have an Eze in my team or a Brian Mbeumo than some of the players that we've signed recently. I'm sorry, you know, I'm not going to slag off Dominic Solanke because he works his arse off, but was
he's class.
£5 million really money well spent that you're ever going to get back? You know, if I'm being honest, I'd rather have spent 70 million or 75 million and got Gyökeres, you know, who's got longevity, who's got a lot more strings to his bow. I'd rather have bought Brian Mbeumo than buying Brendan Johnson. You know, a more, you know, as you say, a bit more maturity.
Why hasn't Brian Mbeumo gone to a bigger club? Like,
well,
it's a weird one, isn't it? He's such a good player.
Try getting out of these contracts. You know, you think it's easy to get out of Crystal Palace? Look at Louis Saha, right? He couldn't get out. He couldn't get out of the club.
Yeah, but I don't think Brentford have ever stood in the way of any players, have they?
Who? Palace?
No, Brian Mbeumo plays for.
But if you're on the contract, he couldn't get out. It was like a captive, Zaha at Palace. Parish was never letting him go, right?
Yeah, but how much money does Brian Mbeumo earn at Brentford?
But he would be on a solid contract with a big buy. It'd be big money. You're not going to.
But that's he's a player that I think improves.
How many people are going to pay 45 million, 50 million for him?
Well, Tottenham should have done.
Yeah, but they won't pay it.
Arsenal could do with it and could pay the money. Right?
Could have paid it 18 months ago when I was flagging him.
No, yeah, listen, mate. I mean, anyone that doesn't see the value in Brian Mbeumo is insane. I think Brian Mbeumo gets into all teams. I think he gets into every team in the Premier League. But I think he would get into the Aston Villa team. I think he would. I don't think he would. He wouldn't obviously get into the Liverpool team. He wouldn't get into the City team. I think he'd get into the Arsenal team, or at least be a decent squad player. I think he would get into the United team in a heartbeat. Get into the Tottenham team. Chelsea have got enough wingers, so probably they don't need him. Like, I think 75% of the Premier League teams would be improved with Brian Mbeumo in it, and he's not going to cost, you know, he's not going to be an £80 million player, and he's sure as hell he's not on 100. Let me have a look at that. I don't think he's on 100 grand.
Would you take Tel right here, right now? I mean, I saw his best game for against Fulham. I was watching him while I was sat on the terrace, and Elite was taking players on, and he was trying to make things happen.
I didn't know that. It's interesting. I didn't know that. My Gunners didn't know that, man.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's big money. Big money. They ain't selling unless you pay top dollar, right? It's as simple as that, right? They're
Well, would you rather have Mathys Tel at 50 or Brian Mbeumo at 50?
Brian Mbeumo all day long.
Would you rather have Wissa or
Wissa's a bit older though, isn't he, Wissa?
Yeah, Wissa. He's 27. Wissa or Richarlison? I know he's your boy. I know he's your boy.
No,
I know
but
he's your boy.
it's completely different players, Sean. They're
Really?
completely different players. They are, mate. Their whole gameplay is completely different. But what my thing is, would you take Mathys Tel? I'm asking.
There you go.
Do you think I would send him back personally? I would send him back, and I'd use that money to buy Liam Delap. Right? I would rather see Liam Delap.
Had a long conversation about Liam Delap last night. Adrian and Jose, I'm pretty confident in saying that they weren't that impressed with Liam Delap. I'm like, wow. I think he's amazing talent. He's young. He's English, homegrown. He's big. He's strong. He's an absolute handful. He's incredible in the air, and he's got a turn of pace, and he's not afraid to take players on.
Shot on him.
And he's got he's two-footed as well, right? Like there's no doubt in my mind that guy. I think he'll go to somewhere like Nottingham Forest, and Nottingham Forest will be given pats on the back from every single fan for having an incredible insight. Yet to anyone that's got a pair of eyes and a couple of brain cells between their ears, Liam Delap is going to improve again. 75% of the teams in the Premier League.
Edu's gone there, isn't he? He's left Arsenal to go to work for Forest for a reason. Multi-club model. Big money was offered. It seemed like quite strange for Edu to leave a club like Arsenal and go there. He has Rory Delap, the guy who used to throw the ball for a long way. But, another Manchester City academy player that didn't come through Man City ultimately. Morgan Rogers, Palmer, Delap, Diego Luiz. There's so many. You could almost make a team up of players that sort of came through, didn't quite make it, and then have gone elsewhere. But for me, Liam Delap has a big future, and I would rather I'd rather have him than Mathys Tel and allow and throw the dice with Yang, Odegaard, Sonny, and Mikey Moore. Why do we need? We don't need more wingers than Nando's. We've got so many wingers. I think we still need one more. But I think we need to sunset Heung-min Son.
I'd
get rid of Brennan Johnson. I think the right centre. Listen, Odegaard for me already. I'm watching the French under-21s, right?
Yeah.
Odegaard got 2 assists. He was causing havoc. He's already there. He's already doing it. And I'm thinking to myself, we didn't even pay. It's rising to £30 million for Odegaard. And we're looking to pay up to £60 million with the loan fee and everything for Tel. I don't see it at the moment. I really don't see it. Listen, I'd be happy to be proved wrong, but I don't know how many games he's played now. Six games, is it? He's not a striker. I mean, no one's going to convince me right now he's a striker. Could he play off of a striker, maybe? Tucked in a little bit behind, maybe?
Well, like a 10? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
He's a winger, mate. He's a winger, but Bayern Munich, or at least via that
Plettenberg, isn't it?
Like, he's just the voice piece in the media for them.
Yeah.
He said, he has to play as a 9. I'm like, well, either you are taking £10 million as a loan fee and he's our player and we do what we want with him. If there's contingencies, then you shouldn't have chosen Tottenham, because Tottenham's need for a 9 or use of a 9 is predicated on the formation and the system that you play. And whilst I think that Mathys Tel is a very talented player, and I don't hate him, and I think he works really hard off the ball. I think he's very much a player that I looked and I would hope would do better once he's acclimated. I think he hasn't impressed thus far, but he's clearly a very talented player. But I don't think he's a 9 in our system. He's a 9 in a different system. Maybe he's in a like an old school kind of like a Michael Owen with an Emil Heskey type sort of vibe, where you have someone who can knock the ball down to you, then his pace and trickery. But he isn't strong enough, nor is he a hold-up player. He's not very good with his back to goal. His first thought when he does receive the ball back to goal is to turn and drive, and that's only useful if you're going to do that on a wing situation. So when you have people like Plettenberg telling us how to use him, and that you have to do it this way, first of all, when you ask for a £10 million loan fee, you abdicate the ability to command certain outcomes. If you want us to develop him for you, then you don't get the £10 million fee, and then we might do what you want. But shut the hell up.
Bayern weren't playing him as centre forward. When his breakthrough season came in on the left-hand side, which was tremendous, you know. But this season he's found it more difficult. You know, it's a bit like Kulu in his first season. He came and no one knew, you know, how good he was, and he was beating players and he was causing havoc. Second season was a little bit more difficult for Kulu out on the flanks. They forced him onto his weaker foot. But for Tel, I was interested. The French under-21 manager was saying, yes, he's a talent, he's this, he's that, but they're but, right? Which says to me, you know, but with the French under-19 team, and you're still, you know, there's buts about you that you're not quite ready yet. You know, that Etete.
He's nowhere near worth 60 million quid.
Well, that Etete, right, who plays for
Ekiteke, isn't it?
Etete, or whatever you want to speak. He scored a hat-trick. Odegaard got 2 assists. Now, the thing is about Odegaard, you can see he's only 20 years of age, 19, 20 years of age. He's taken on players. He's driving into the space. He's taking players with him, creating space for others, winning free kicks. And, you know, he's already making an impact. And I just worry that Spurs are going to do what we've done so many times. You know, we're spending money. I don't want to go down that Steve Hitchen route. And this is what I'm really worried about, that we're going to end up with 65 million for Solanke, 60 million for this guy, 47 million for Brennan Johnson. And really,
all of that's got to be amortized.
All it's got to be amortized. But, you know, if you want my opinion, you go out and you spend £50 million and you buy Edison at Atlanta, the Monster Six, right? Plop him in there. You buy a David Hanko, you buy a top winger, and then, you know, you're looking like a different team. I just feel like we're trying to be too smart. Why would you spend 50?
We're not being smart. If you drop 60 million,
you're not smart.
You're not being smart at all. You're being a moron. You're blinded by the lights. You are the equivalent of walking past Harrods and thinking that there's something different about Harrods Tupperware to Tesco's Tupperware, but you're paying 50 quid for a plastic bowl rather than the £3 it's going to cost you at the local supermarket. There's no different. It's just you're buying it from Bayern Munich, and therefore you think that their kids are not just better, even though they haven't proven it. But let me ask you this.
Can I just say one last thing? Hang on, just one last thing.
Yeah.
You can't kid a kidder, right? The number one target is Kolo Muani, right? Kolo Muani is on another plane. You know, this is like, you know,
he didn't want to come to us.
I know, I understand that, but we're talking about different levels, right? We're talking about different levels, one established, but bugger all difference in price money. It's like, you know, we didn't go. It's typical Spurs. You know, we didn't go for Shevchenko. We went for Rebrov. We didn't go. You know, we go for a lookalike. You know, it's almost like a lookalike, and I think, to spend 60 million. Listen, I hope I'm sat here in 6 months' time or a year's time and I'm eating my words. But based on what I've seen Bayern Munich this season, you know, where he's struggled a bit, and what I've seen here is he's not performing. He's a lovely kid. He's got a great manner. He's got a great, nice way about him, which is terrific. And, you know, and Ange has nailed his colours to the mask, and like, he's a fantastic kid. He's going to be a great player, and everyone at Spurs is delighted with him. That's terrific, and I hope it's the case. But I don't want to see in the summer Mikey Moore saying thanks very much, I'm off, and have to watch. It's like watching, you know, having a girlfriend, someone you love, and then suddenly you see them playing for Chelsea or
yeah. Right? You bump into her as she's coming outside of like Fitness First with like some stacked absolute dreamboat, blonde hair, blue-eyed, like Hercules personal trainer. Meanwhile, you've got a pizza box and you got fucking tomato sauce all down your face. Yeah, what happened to you? What happened to you? Now, listen. What I would say though is I do want to ask you, because I think he's a perfect example of a player like the way I. Not for the same reasons and not to the same level, but like I was talking about this earlier, the Eberechi Eze. I don't think Eberechi Eze has kicked on, and yet he emerged and people found this like opinion of him based on when he was 18, 19, and now he's a little bit older. I don't think he's necessarily kicked on. I understand what you're saying about his injury. I understand what you're saying about, and I'm certainly not like
still proclaiming.
I know I'm not proclaiming that he's a bad player or that he's dropped off. I'm just saying that the trajectory has slowed down, and I still like him in the club. But that doesn't mean that he should get the accolades based on 2 years ago when he was an 18-year-old and people were baking in to their opinion of him. He's a kid. Look how good he is. But as you go up, the age thing is no longer important. So it's okay to update your opinion. With Mathys Tel, his stock is worth what it is because A, he plays for Bayern Munich, and there is this like grass is always greener vibe. And 2, he was a real talent at 17 and 18. And when he emerged, he was crazy. But now this season, he's been terrible, right? And sometimes it can all come a little bit too much too soon. Young players, we're all humans. Like, you get caught up in the glitz and glamour of your own, you believe your own hype and all this stuff. And I don't think he's anything like a £60 million player. My question to you is, if Daniel Levy went back to the negotiating table and said, look, he ain't worth 60, because the other part of the thing, which just to go on, you were saying, sorry, rambling here. You said, I don't mind the player. I like the play. It's all good, but I don't want to see Mikey Moore exited as a consequence of reduced minutes. The other part of the equation, which you haven't mentioned, which I think is necessary, is
we mentioned it on the last stream, didn't we? What I would do.
Yeah, but that's right. Yeah, but it's the consequence of your like opportunity cost, right? You only have so much money, and £60 million, especially if we don't qualify for Champions League. If we do, then it's going to be insane. But if we don't, then you're looking at a third season out of 5, whatever it is, out of Europe, and then you're going to sit there and kind of go, well, you don't have 100. You have 100 million at most, regardless of how good the stadium is. You can't make the money. It's not a money tree. It's not like a magical thing where there's endless pits of money without Europe. So, are you really going to justify half or more than half of your budget on a player that hasn't really done it? And the answer to me is no. But the answer to me would be, I'm okay with Mathys Tel being made permanent at a certain price point, and that price point for me has to be at least 50% less than what it currently is.
Well, so I would be going back to them and saying, look, we'll pay you 25 million, right? 25 million, but we're willing to give you 40-50% of any sell-on profit. And that works for both teams, really. Well, it works for us. Look, my slant or take on this is they owe us money for Harry Kane, and this is a great way of not paying us for Harry.
But I'd rather go somewhere else in the Bayern Munich team and see if, there's other players in the Bayern Munich team.
Image ain't coming, is he? And I don't know what Conan.
Coman, yeah. Kingsley Coman.
He's hardly playing this season. He's a
real talent, but he's 28 years old.
29,
right?
I think, isn't he? 20 coming up 29? It's
so,
29.
But I'm not against buying a few 30, 29, 28-year-olds. I'm really not. And I think that we need to sunset Bissouma. I'd love to hear your take. I'm not sure if we spoke about this before. Remind me if we did. I don't want to be repetitive, but I think that Sonny is commanding minutes that he doesn't deserve, using the Korean media to escalate unspoken truths in his mind that are, I'm the best version of myself I've ever been. I'm as physically fit as I've ever been. And therefore, if you want to know why I'm not playing as many minutes as I should be, in your opinion, Mr. Korean media man, then ask the manager, which is another way of saying, I'm unhappy. I deserve 100% of minutes. And Tottenham Hotspur have got a real difficult predicament because it's not the same as a Ben Davies who knows that age is a thing and time waits for no man, and he's willing to play his part when required. And when he does a good job. So I have no problem with Ben Davies. But Sonny is clearly not the player he was with Harry Kane 2 years ago and for the previous 8. And that's notwithstanding, I'm not taking anything away from the guy. I love him. I respect him. I appreciate him. But at the same time, if you carry the weight of the other baggage, if you come with that baggage of all the money that the Korean fans bring in, all this stuff, and that the Korean fans don't yet love Yang as much as they love Sonny. Right. And so if Sonny was to leave the club in acrimonious circumstances because the club went, you're not as good, we'll sell you to Saudi, whatever, and there was a sniff of any kind of like just bad energy about that, then Daniel Levy has to factor in that he will lose a massive slice of revenue because Yang hasn't yet won over the Koreans like Sonny does. Right. So, but at the same time, Sonny will be aware of that. His advisors will be aware of that. But you have to do what's best for Tottenham. And I think that Sonny in the team, for the most part, I know there's still moments of magic, right? But for the most part, it creates an imbalance. Same with Brennan Johnson. This system requires your wingmen to track back, to work hard, to press off the ball, and to drive at players. And Sonny doesn't have it in him as often as we need it to. And so for me, You said that you don't want any more wingers. We've got enough. I would, if you gave me the keys to the kingdom and the ability to make the decisions, sorry, like it's business. I would sit there and say, sorry, Sonny, if we can get good money for you, you can go and create, like turn the Saudi league into a super, like everyone's a winner, but we need to think about the future. At some point, Sonny will have played his last game for Tottenham. I think it should be at the end of the season.
You're not going to get any money for it. You're not going to get big money for him. He's 32 years of age, right? And you're not going to get big money for him. Look, I thought the couple of the comments there were really interesting. You know, he's in the best body's in the best shape of his life. You know, we don't believe that, or very few people believe that. The comments about Ange, Coleman's legs are gone 100%. You know, the comments about Ange playing him out. Listen, I don't think Mikey Moore is 100% ready yet, to be honest. I don't believe he's the only player that he's ready 100%, Mikey Moore, but he's ready to come on and start playing minutes. He's not ready to come and be starting every single game. Listen, Ben Davies is there.
Do not get yourself blocked, mate. Jay, I know what you obviously come from a certain part of the world.
Right, listen, let me tell you something.
I'm not xenophobic, my man.
Listen, Ben Davies is at the club because he runs the bookshop, right? He runs the book club. Right, the players come in, he chooses the books that go in, and that's his bag. He'll still be at the club probably in 15 years' time, Ben Davies. I think he'll stay on coaching. He's doing his coaching badges. He'll be a fixture at the club. But that's not what it's about. The fact of the matter is, the amount of money you've only got to stand outside, like I have with you, Sean, outside the clock at the stadium, and see at the exit door how many Koreans are coming out that door with bags and bags and bags.
And that's great. It's wonderful. And listen, just obviously goes without saying. What I'm just talking about what's in the best.
No, I'm just saying that they are.
I know. I'm saying this to the guy who's calling me a xenophobe. Like, I get it. He's your boy. I get it. And he's my boy as well. He's my favourite player at the club. I love Sonny. I love him. I think the fact that he stands outside the training ground every day for an hour, signing and taking photos and stuff. I think he's just an absolute beast of a human being. I love the guy. But that doesn't mean that you can't sit there and go, like, is he pulling his weight, like, on the pitch to the level that you need from him? And if the answer in anyone's opinion is no, then juggle the next thing for me. Anybody else bar Sonny doesn't come with the baggage of all of the value that he brings off the pitch. And as I say, Daniel Levy is a business guy first, so he has to make that decision. And if someone like Sonny can sit there and say into the Korean media, essentially, like he's an alcoholic who doesn't like being called drunk, that the notion that I'm not the best form of my life is madness, blame the manager, then that is an inference to say, I demand to play. And unfortunately, I think playing him as much as we have done this year has cost us. That's all I'm saying.
Do you think he's blamed the manager? I mean, with that comment, was it blaming the manager somewhat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% it was.
So you got the captain.
He will not be happy playing. He will not be happy on the bench, Johnny. He will not be happy on the bench.
So my question is, right, everyone's happy. Everyone's behind the manager. That's all we hear. The players are all behind the manager. I don't believe that that's the case. I believe naturally that they will turn up for that Eintracht Frankfurt game because it's a chance of glory and a chance to write your name in history. But the same hasn't been said for the league games. I think the Eintracht game, the home game, we will see a team that desperately wants to win, and you'll see the effort, you'll see the commitment. Whether or not we win or not is another matter.
Johnny, the only players in this squad that would be honest with the media, the only players in this squad that would turn around and say things that are directly about that they're not happy and it's the manager, are players that have a give a shit approach to playing the game, if you like, right? The rest of them are all going to say what they need to say because they're towing the line. And they don't want to make it look like there's any kind of uneasiness, a disruption in the dressing room. But you can tell if you have, again, two brains between your ears, that James Maddison isn't happy. Richarlison isn't happy. Christian Romero is not happy, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not happy with the club. none of those players have come out and said anything about the manager. But you know that they're not like if Ange Postecoglou was sacked today and someone else came in, you know there's a better energy with some of the players. Other players might love him. The younger players that have had their chance and that have thrived might love Ange. But there's always going to be people in the dressing room who are going to dislike the manager. They're always. It's 100%. Like this idea that they've all come out and backed the manager, it's lip service to play the game.
Told to by the club. The club tells them you need to show support with the manager on your social media. So they say things, you know.
Of course. There's no chance. Richarlison might come out and say something because he just doesn't care. You
say he doesn't care. He cares about. He does care about his. You know how.
No, I mean, like he doesn't care about like he's like he says what he thinks. He wears his heart on his sleeve. Like I don't mean he doesn't care about. I mean, like he just says what his own truth is, right?
But I don't think like
the majority of people are gonna like. I might hate my manager. I'm never gonna tell that to someone, am I? You know.
Well, look at Eric Dyer said, right? Don't practice this. We don't practice that. I mean, I thought he was taking the piss. People thought, when he was talking about that we don't practice this at training, we don't do this at training.
So Jimmy, I know that's what I'm saying, mate. I'm saying they can't come out and criticize. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying so. Don't believe the stories that you.
Well, we know that, Jimmy. This is the point. Yeah. We know that. That's what we're saying. That's exactly the point, Jimmy. We're saying this is just lip service. Deep down, when you go to the games, like, look, I got into trouble, Jimmy, with that post that I did on the Fulham game, the warm up. Right? If you look on my socials, Sonny's warming up with Maddison, and the players are on the bench, and they were being supervised by what looked like a Peter Crouch lookalike kid. And basically, none of them were listening to him. They're pushing each other around. And it looked like the PE teacher supervising the kids in the playground. That's what it looked like. And I was pissed off, right? And I said, look, this is their attitude. And a guy said to me, oh, what do you want me to be, miserable? And I said to him, well, look, if we'd won the majority of our games, I'd be looking at that and be saying, that speaks to me of confidence. That is a team confidence in their own ability. But when I look at a team that can't buy a victory, that have lost 19 games this season, to me, that is a team that's on the beach that doesn't give a shit. And, we had this sort of little disagreement, so to speak. Anyway, we lost 2-0, as we all know. And as I was walking out, someone banged me on the back of my shoulder. I turned around, it was him. He goes, you know what? You were right. He said, I didn't think of it like that. But still, people have been saying on the post, having a go at me, like, what do you expect them to do? But I think it's indicative of the demeanour and the manner of the squad right now. I don't think they are behind this manager. I don't believe that they believe in this.
It's human nature, mate. If you have
19 losses, how can they?
More than 50% or whatever it is, 50% losses this season, you're not going to have obscene confidence. Even if you're playing even if you're Nottingham Forest and you're third in the league, right? There's going to be players in that team that don't want to play the version of football, but that tolerate it because they're doing well. But this system is one that isn't performing, isn't getting the results. And then you expect human beings to sit there and go, yeah, I've just got blind faith in this system because the manager says that we got to trust the process and the message is more important than the individual losses in isolation when you're 19 months into I said this from day one, right? I said, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this guy's, with his message. If it works, it will be fantastic. And then after 10 games, I was like, look, looks like it's working. Sensational. But I remember back in October, and we were losing individual games to Palace and Ipswich or whatever. And he was saying, it's far more important to worry. Don't worry about there's going to be losses. There's going to be bumps along the road. Mate, if you haven't been able to instill your message after 18 months, there's something wrong with the message. Either it's too complicated or it's like archaic or it's an idealistic world of, and again, now I summarize it by saying if the only tool that you have is a hammer, every problem has to be a nail. And the Premier League is far too sophisticated to be able to fix all problems with a hammer and a nail. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't mean that I'm not rooting for the manager, but to sit there and pretend like when all players come out and say, yeah, we're fully behind the manager, you're deluding yourself and you don't understand human nature and psychology, because there's no chance that every single player in that dressing room is happy with the way it's working. Sorry.
Listen, look, the thing is, in my opinion, Ange Ball is a philosophy, and there it ends, right? He has not reinvented the wheel. He has not come up with a system that no manager, some of the great managerial minds have not come up with this system. There's a reason, because in practice, the philosophy doesn't work. I could come up with all the philosophies in the world, but in practice, having it in my mind and having an idea of this is going to be great, this is fantastic. But once you put it into practice is the real acid test. And we've seen time and time again, since November the 5th, 2023, we have suffered 35 defeats. I'm sorry. That is disgusting. It's disastrous. It's just totally unacceptable. 19 defeats, they said. This isn't a blip. This isn't he's had an injury crisis, right? Well, has he had an injury crisis since November 2023? What is the excuses? He's using every excuse out of the Mikel Arteta excuse book right now. And I just don't want to hear it. I hope
it's not just that, Jonny, mate. It's the like, he's a smart guy. Like I say, man, like on in my career, where I've traveled and what I've done, like I said this to Jacob, I think it was last night. I was like, mate, like I'm terrible at most things in life, right? I'm a failure in so many different formats and fashions. But the one thing that I know is how, like, because of my career, I've had to train, sell to, employ, fire, and speak in front of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people about the thing that my previous careers, right? And like, you have to be pretty good at reading people and being able to see whether they're salesmen and whether there's any merit and substance to their shtick and their spiel. And with Ange Postecoglou, whilst he's a very smooth talker and he can win over a lot of people with his words, and listen, when you see him when he's in a good mood, he's a wonderful, wonderful, articulator of his message. But what he doesn't realize is that when he defends one attack, one criticism with one excuse or / explanation, then if you're paying attention to what he says, then he opens himself up to other analysis on the other things that he has said. For example, when he was accused of being responsible for the injury crisis around this December time, and he turned around and said, it can't be me, it's not my fault, it's nothing to do with the training because we don't train anymore. So how can I be responsible for the injuries if we don't train? Then fine. If that's true, then why on God's green earth are you implementing new strategies around playing lower blocks against Liverpool, doing whatever that was against Aston Villa in the first half, which is the worst version of football I've ever seen, and doing a back three against Everton for 45 minutes? That was a failed experiment in the only place in the way league in the footballing pyramid where you wouldn't play a back three because you don't need it against Everton away. But if what you're saying is true about not training, then why are we playing systems that you haven't prepared for in the previous 18 months? Like, if one thing is true, then the other is you're a moron. And if the first thing is not true, then you're lying to the press. And to me, like, either way, you can't land on anything other than the notion that he's either a philosopher, to use your word, or a salesman. And that's not good enough as a manager at this level, in my opinion.
I think he's both, and to sit there and say, I'm not bothered, I don't feel the pressure, I've got 50 odd years, 30 odd years in this job, I'll get another job. And then at half time, at full time, when you've lost the game 2-0 and someone shouts out, what was that shit? Right. And you lose the plot and you have to be held back by others telling them to respect it. You've been in this game, you're 57, 58 years of age. You should be smart enough to turn the other cheek. We are, as YouTubers, Sean and I definitely come in for a lot of abuse, a lot of stick. At the beginning, I used to get very upset about it. But there again, you got to learn just to, if you're going to be in this domain, you have to suck it up. And
you know what it is, Jonny? You know what it is? I was having this chat.
I would suck it up now for $5 million a year. Call me every freaking name you want, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Thank you very much.
By the way, all we ask for is no money at all. just smashing of the like button.
Do please like if you want to have give us a post, a financial post. We never refuse it, but we never ask for it.
Yeah, just smash the like button on this channel on the Spurs Talk Show, and if you're on Football Inc., then smash the like button on Football Inc. as well. And if whichever one you're on, can you jump over to the other one? Links are in the actually they might not be in the description. It's Football Inc. with a one instead of the instead of the I in the Football Inc. on YouTube. And just go and make sure you're subbing, because it's Johnny's. It's our second venture or third venture, but it's really Johnny's baby. And we've done all the metrics, and we just need a few more watch hours to get Jonny into a place where he can start being rewarded for all of the time he puts into the community. So really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for anyone who does that. I'm just going to ask if anyone's on TikTok. I've just started that, and it's Talking Tottenham 1882. So that's Instagram and TikTok. So that's Talking Tottenham 1882, and the only stuff that goes on there are videos of the goals, clips from incidents that happen during the games, interesting stuff. TikTok and Instagram are very different. Instagram, I can post a lot of sort of funny material, laughing at ourselves, and TikTok is a lot more strict. They even refused me to allow me to post one of my own videos, telling me it wasn't mine. So, but thanks very much, guys, for all your support out there listening to Sean and myself. It's much appreciated.
It is, and even though I love the hate as well, to be honest. Like I say, I'll show you, if I get time, I'll show you guys at the end a comment that was absolutely sensational. I woke up this morning to the harshest. He was like a food critic. He said, "This guy can," and then he went off on the things that I can do, can't, and then he went off to things I can't do, and he just basically ripped me to pieces. But it was. I was like, you know what? It was the funniest thing I've read. So fair play.
What was the one we had the other day? Jonny and Sean is like. What did he say? Reform versus liberal Dems.
Yeah. That was a compliment. That was a compliment. But So listen, I love the comments. Even if you hate me or hate Jonny, some of you will hate me but like Jonny. Some of you will dislike Jonny but hopefully appreciate me. But that's why we do it, yin and yang, right? We have these debates. Like I say, just smash the like, smash the subscribe on both channels, and we really appreciate you. Also, if you are on Spotify, if you prefer content on Spotify, then get yourself over there. The link will be in the description as soon as I've uploaded the video. But Jonny, I wanted to move this story forward a little bit, mate, because we talked about Paratici, we talked about Ange. Even though Ange wasn't on the radar, we've moved in that direction. Look, I do want to get your take on Pochettino, because he's had an absolute mare this last sort of week, hasn't he? Lost 2 games now. Lost to Canada in the fourth playoff, I think it was last night. 2-1. Jonathan David scoring the winner, 2-1. Scoring the winner. A player that I very much have.
I'd love to see him. I'd
very much warm to. Yeah. Before we talk about Jonathan David and other strike options, because that'll be the last topic for us. I know we're already kind of running ahead of time, but I just want to get your take on Pochettino. A lot of American fans came into the show last night late on to let me know that they're happy for Tottenham to take him now. They don't want him anymore because they're very much, I guess, embarrassed by the fact that they lost to their North American partners in Canada, and obviously what happened the other day against Panama, right? Like, not good enough. Has that sort of, first of all, is Pochettino a guy that you'd like to come back if it was possible? I know it's difficult with the compensation, but if it's possible, would you like to see him come back? And if so, has what's happened in the last week in any way impacted your viewpoint on Pochettino, the manager?
Yes, I'd like to see him come back. No, it hasn't impacted it. But the likelihood of him coming back is 0 unless he gets sacked, because you've got a whole of next season, and he wouldn't be able to come to us because the World Cup doesn't finish, I think, till 20-something of July. We'd already be back in pre-season training.
No, the idea would be like buy him out of the contract.
Yeah, no, but we're not going to be buying him out of the contract. We couldn't even pay the money for Arne Slot, so we're not going to be paying the money for him. But the interesting thing is, what the American fans don't realize is there's a process here. You've got a manager that's come in. The whole point is gearing up to the World Cup, and that is finding your players, finding the system that suits, finding out what doesn't suit, going through the players, whether it's Balogun or whoever it may be, and and finding your best team. I think you've seen many.
You should be able to beat Panama, though. Right?
No. Listen. Most people, I asked the other night, what rank do you think Panama are in the world? And most people thought 100 plus. They're ranked 41 in the world.
But America ranked 15th, right?
They're ranked for but some of these rankings, I know. 41.
How about Jonny?
No, hang on a second. No,
you can't use the Panama ranking as a justification.
Let me finish. I'm saying to you, I don't understand them. How are Panama are 41, and I don't understand how America are 15. Right? I don't understand any of it. Right? Because for me, I wouldn't have listed either of them as quality as a quality team. But what I would say is the whole gearing up for Pochettino is gearing up to the World Cup. And, this is a guy who said his greatest honour in football was playing for Argentina in the World Cup. It's an honour to be one of a select few to manage a team at the home of their the World Cup. And I think he has to go through a process. And also you've seen many times before the host team of a World Cup or a European Championship or what have you, losing games in the run up to the tournament, yet to go to the tournament and actually do very well. So,
Germany was one such.
There's been loads. There's been loads, and America aren't blessed with great players. In my opinion, they have a few. We know which ones they are, but
Anthony Robinson, Cardoso. They've always had a good goalkeepers over the years, haven't they? They've always had good goalkeepers.
Ex-Chelsea boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I listen. I think Canada have a stronger squad, personally. That's my opinion. But
is Canada still playing that right back? Who's got that cool name? Who's like lightning quick. He tore up the World Cup. Obviously, Jonathan David. Would you?
Yes, I would take Jonathan David, a drop of hat, boom, like that.
How much is he going to cost in salary and a signing fee? Buchanan, that's it. Buchanan, Buchanan. I love that name.
You could get him for everything that Mathys Tel isn't right now. That £60 million package, bang, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Listen, left foot, right foot, pace. He's just a goal scoring machine. I know a lot of people weren't brilliant. Alphonso Davies is another player.
Quality.
Yeah. And they've got a better team, and are really, really. I would be over the moon if we got Jonathan David. He's probably one of my top 4 or 5 players I'd like to see. Pulisic, that's it, yeah. But Jonathan David, Angel Gomez, both played at Lille together. That's probably the sort of deal that Spurs would like, because there's no transfer fee and we can get them back. We just don't need. I agree, Moondog. Honestly, we don't need lightweights. We need game changers. And Jonathan David, like I said, when you're a striker and you've got both feet and you've got an eye for goal, he's levels above, and he can play through the middle or on the flanks. Different gravy for me.
By the way, Moondog, I was taking a look, mate. Sorry, I missed your super chat yesterday. I didn't see that one even come through, mate. I don't know why the blue seems to. Must be like a dog with the misses. The color blue's not in my spectrum. I don't know why it happens, but I just want to say to you, mate. Thank you. I'm just looking at the members of the channel. You've been my longest serving. 34 months. You have been a member.
34 years for a minute.
34 months. Bearing in mind that I think it was May that I qualified for like memberships or whatever. In my first, so I started the channel in like December of 2023, I think it was, or something like that. And it took me 5 months to get up to the monetization thing. And I turned it on in May. And that I think is 34 months ago. So, my man, you have been a member of my channel since the very first second you could be. And I just wanted to say thank you very much. And to everyone else that's a member as well. Your loyalty and your patience with my absences at times and things is it doesn't go amiss in my mind. So thank you very much for the support that you guys that you show, and Yeah, legend. Thank you, Moondog. I appreciate you, mate. Yeah, I agree. Tel. I think that Tel's a good player. I'd have him at a certain price point, but nothing like the price point we're currently doing. And I subscribe to Johnny's viewpoint. Like, make it based on some sort of like, what Bayern. If you think Bayern Munich, if you think that he's that good, then you should be okay with sacrificing some of the signing fee now, on the premise that if he turns into the player that you think he will, that we will hand you over a larger check in the future based on a sell-on fee.
But you've given the first 40 million of that sell-on, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
To make it up
get creative, right? Get creative.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, mate, about some of these strikers, right? So I made a list. Let me see if it's in this page, this book.
Are we going for another 2 hour?
No, not too long. But this is the last topic of the list, right? So you do need that striker. Oh, actually, let me open up to you. If you, I asked the question to Jose and to Adrian last night. I'll ask it to you as well, and I also want you guys in the comments to participate in this one. Forget about incoming money. Forget about sales. Forget about any of that. Just imagine that the squad is as it is, and then you don't need to sell players, but you need to just to simplify the process. You have 120 million pound to spend. What positions? I think we've done this before, like 3 or 4 positions, 1 player per position. And what is the priority, and how much of the budget would you spend in each position? And if you've got a name and a realistic bid, then throw it out there.
Edison, 6, Atalanta.
How much do you think he was going to cost? 60 million?
When I was highlighting him, about 25 million.
Yeah.
18 months ago. Probably 60 million. I can see Edison going to a Liverpool or a Man United, probably. Monster 6, I would.
He won't go to Man United, mate. They haven't got any money. They're not.
Well, I mean, I'm saying he's going to go to a big club, Edison. I would say I'd like to see another left back, personally. And we 100% need a top creative midfielder, because we cannot be relying on James Maddison. One knock and he's out for weeks. And as we know, James Maddison's called 33 1/3, because 33% of the time he's playing, 33% he's out injured, and 33% of the time he's coming back trying to find his his way. Oh yeah, Sean. Sorry, Sean. Dave,
listen, I'll extend the show by another hour and a half. If even if Johnny has to drop off, if you want to come on, mate, just let me know and I'll pop the chat in, mate, because it'll be good to turn it into a devil's advocate. We can slice it up, and I'll republish the devil's advocate later. Dave is a massive fan, as am I, of a player who plays still in Portugal called Pedro Gonçalves.
Yeah.
Do a little bit of everything. A little bit like a Dani Olmo, can play off the left, can play off the right, can play in the 10, can even play up top if need be. He's got age, he's got wisdom, he's got experience, he's got pace, he's got balance, he's got tenacity, he's got bite, he's got guile, he's got a cross on him that is dependable, reliable, and he's got a 2-footed finish, and he can even operate in the air when necessary at the back post. I'm not saying that we could get him, but you said you fancied a creative player. Is a player like him that sort of vibe? Maybe like a Matheus Cunha as well. Someone who's a bit of a sort of another similar-esque type of player. But if you're going to do all that, and if you're saying, let me know first of all if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, Cunha would be my my set. So I would be buying Edison, Cunha, and a left back. And a creative.
No striker.
No, because Cunha can play. Cunha can play off the flanks as a 10. He can play in various different positions, and I think Cunha could actually be, could actually.
So you don't want Jonathan David then?
Well, no, I would take Jonathan David. So Cunha. So I would take Cunha, Edison, and Jonathan David on a free. And
who's your left back?
Well, we probably got Spence is going to be our left back.
Okay, well, right back then.
We got cover there. So I think we got cover really in that play. But I think we need a left centre back, probably the other position. But look, there are players that could be good value. El Nouri, again at Wolves, and then you've got what's his name, Gomez at Wolves as well. Is a cheaper version of a 6, another good player. There's plenty out there.
So many 6s, mate. Here's a few of them for you. I made my list. Where is it? DMs. All of these under the age of 23, right? If we're sticking to this kind of mission of like young resale. Adam Wharton, Belieber, Arta Vermeeren, Johnny Cardoso, Alan Varela, Ravella, Aslani, Moscardo, and Andre. And then you've also got players that are a little bit older, but only a little bit older. Angelo Stiller and Matt Sweefer. Any one of those players elevates Tottenham. Any one of them elevates Tottenham to a better version of themselves. And I don't know where Johnny, you still there?
I'm still here. Here.
And then in the centre back role that are left sided, that can play on the left side. Jared Branthwaite, Diamandi, Hincapia, Mosquera, Huijsen.
Hincapié. Well, he's probably my longest standing player, even longer standing demand since the last World Cup. I wanted Hincapie, the Ecuadorian, longer than I wanted David Hanko.
Right. Yeah. Mosquera, Huijsen, Inacio, Ordone, Vandenberg, Bolosian. There's so many left-sided.
Can I just say though, you were saying if we don't sell. So, for example, if we sell Romero, then you only sell Romero if you're buying Dean Huijsen, right? And using like a vast proportion of that money to buy someone like that in. I don't want to be seeing, like Harry Kane, selling Harry Kane and bringing in Brennan Johnson, or selling him in and bringing some 2-bob. This will be a good player in 4 years' time. Got no interest in that at all. None. Quality.
Yeah.
Quality, or don't buy anyone.
Would you drop 100 million quid on this was all out in the news a couple of days ago? Would you drop 100 million on Cunha and Gomez from Wolves? Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
I think Cunha's got a £61 million release fee, and they reckon that João Gomez is about 40. I think that João Gomez is such a really, really tenacious player. I think he's got so much more value, so much more growth in him as well. Like we've already seen like glimpses of what he's possible, but he's got a wonderful vision on him. His passing is just sensational, but it's more his ability to sit. The problem that I have with like playing this model that we do at the moment, where you might employ Bentancur or Bergvall or whoever in the 6, like the deeper of the 3, but they're all 8s or 10s. I feel like I've seen so many like pieces of evidence of them abdicating their. I said this yesterday as well. Abdicating their requirement to win the ball back because they're an 8, right? They've been trained as an 8, and they think it's someone else's job to do it, and they're like on the other foot, ready to pounce on the counter before the ball's been won back. And that is just something that's just like a consequence of asking 8s to play in a deeper model when you don't have the ball. Whereas if you just get a 6, like it's the same. Again, I don't want to hark on this, but I said this yesterday as well. Like Eddie Howe at Newcastle, the way that he's utilised Dan Burns and just said, right, if you can get a corner taker to put the ball near enough on the spot that it's supposed to be, and then you tell your 6'5", 6'6" geezer, who's a monster in the air, to start his run outside the box, then the opposition have to make a choice. Do they sacrifice their best aerial threat defensively to man mark a guy who's starting his position outside of the box? The answer is no. You can't do that. And so, because if you do that, then you're just leaving the space in the other area, which would be Eddie Howe's next chance, right? Who'd say to the team, by the way, if someone goes and man marks someone like Dan Burns outside the box, then obviously don't worry about that. Use the decoy and just put the ball into the 6-yard box because there'll be more space to fuck around with the manager, the goalkeeper. But on the understanding that he probably won't do that, then Dan Burn, if he knows where the ball's going to be 8 times out of 10, then he's got a 10-yard run up and a leap and a jump, and he's 6 inches bigger than the average player in that box. Like, it's not rocket science, and yet it creates so much value. And you saw Thomas Tuchel employ the exact same thing for England, like 48 hours or 72 hours after Newcastle beat Liverpool in the cup final. And so, like, it's not rocket science to sit there and go,
we need a 6.
That if you get a 6 that doesn't have this inbuilt like tendency to break as an 8 does before you have the ball back.
Can I just say though?
You're better off, right?
Can I just add to this though? When I think of João Gomez, I always think of I was sat in the stand admiring. We took a corner and the ball came across and he won the ball off of Basuma. João Gomez on the edge of his box, outside of his foot, played the ball to Pedro Neto, who ran down almost unchallenged down the flank. And João Gomez ran the length of the pitch and ran past Basuma, who'd lost the ball.
I remember that.
Right? Yeah. He ran past the ball. Neto
put a delicious ball in.
And João Gomez buries it. Yep. Buries the goal. Buries the ball in the back.
And it was Cunha that put the thread of the ball, wasn't it?
No. It was Neto. It was.
Oh, Neto.
It was basically. It was basically ball comes across. He wins the ball off the outside the edge of the box. We're challenging them. He then threads the ball the outside of his foot. Lovely pass out to Neto, who runs the length of the pitch. Basuma is ahead of João Gomez at that moment, and yet João Gomez runs past almost stationary Basuma, runs onto the ball crossed by Neto and buries it. Lovely goal. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was a great goal.
Attacking ball. But listen, for me, Cunha is a magic wand. He's like the nearest thing you'll get to a Berbatov, with that foot and that wand. And for me, I'd love to see him. I fear that he's going to end up at Arsenal. Which will make him a far better team, personally. But yeah, I would take. Listen, if you could get Cunha, Gomez, and Jonathan David, happy days.
And David Hanko, perfect window.
Well, just get rid of if Romero's going. Yeah, I mean, you only need 3, but you got to buy quality.
Yeah, David Hanko could do that double up on the left side. Just quickly, I think I know who you are. I know who you are. You can't hide from me. Listen, I think David Hanko is versatile. Could do that left side. In fact, let me just ask you that last question, mate. Last question. 5 minutes, and then we'll finish off. We need someone that can, like, again, forget about the Romero transfer. Just because of Mickey van der Ven's inability to kind of be there in the for the most part of the season, right? You can't get more than 50% of the minutes out of him. Same with Romero, right? Too many minutes missing. But you also need someone to come in and play either back up to Udogie, right? If you fancy Jez Spence to be a right back, or back up to Porro if you fancy Jez Spence to be a left back, whatever. But you need another wing back to come in. Now, the question
Hincapié can play left back and he can play left centre back. So you
right. Yeah. So perfect example. Hincapié can do both. Mickey van der Ven can do both. Someone like our man who, what was his name? Gerstruida, right? Can play.
Yeah, Gerstruida.
Can play on the right side and do that same sort of thing.
Leipzig, didn't he? Gerstruida.
Yeah, he did, and he's killing it, right? He's killing it. But would you rather a specialist centre back that is a player that is left side, left footed, so that if Mickey van der Ven is injured, then when he drops out for 50% of the minutes, you've got someone else coming in that isn't Ben Davies, that isn't a kid, that you know is going to be like not a significant drop off, and then you go, well, in a world where Mickey van der Ven isn't injured, but the left back is, then Mickey van der Ven can play on the left. And so you have that already, right? Well, that's problem solved. Would you rather a specialist fullback like an Nori or someone else who's more balanced and can cover the gaps and all those sorts of things? Or would you rather a hybrid player that can do a bit of both, but in either particular position, they're a little bit less as a specialist and therefore a little bit lower quality as a centre-back or a left-back, but can do both if needed?
I don't want to see Danso playing at left centre-back, right?
You don't like Danso?
No, I like Danso, but he's not
on the right.
He's not a left centre-back. And what is Ange doing? You know, you've been playing Archie Gray. You played him at right back, right centre-back, left back, and you're playing Danso. Danso's game dropped off. So, no, I don't want to see that. I want to see a left-footed, a specialist, and Hincapié, a player like Hincapié, if it's not Hincapié, and coming from Bayer Leverkusen, you've got a player that's equally comfortable on the left side of left centre-back or playing as left-back. And let me tell you, right, he'll be going to the World Cup, playing for Ecuador. And if he has a good World Cup, again, he'll be too expensive for us. Now's the time, summer's the time to strike. But he's not going to come to us. I don't want to be buying another guy that we're putting square pegs in round holes. If you're paying top money, buy the right player for the right position.
I agree, mate. I agree. Anything else you want to get off your chest before we round off, mate?
No, but the club are this right now, Pony. I thought that's why I'd wear it today. No one's picked up on that. I thought somebody might, but that's how I feel we are at the moment. Absolute pony. No, listen, look. Are
we going to beat Frankfurt, mate? You got that El Yawahi. You've got Ekitiki. There's dangerous players there, mate, that can do a lot of damage against our back four or back two, whatever you want to call it. Are we going to get?
Thank God Mamouche is gone, eh?
Yeah.
God. Yeah. Otherwise, we'd have even more trouble.
Look, have I wasted 800 quid on a presumptuous final ticket?
Listen, look, all I know is that I screwed up because I thought that the away leg was first. So I booked my flight, booked the hotel, then realised, hang on a minute. What do you mean we're away first? We're away first. So it could all be over, and I could be going to Frankfurt to eat some.
So you're watching the home leg from a bar in Frankfurt, are you?
No, I'm not. I booked it for the day, but I thought that was the first day. I booked it, but I thought the first leg was on the 17th. So
right, okay.
Anyway,
what do you expect to happen, mate? Like, I mean,
we got to win at home. All we got to do is win at home and not lose away from home, which is possible.
Right. Of course it is. But do you think playing? In fact, have you got 5 more minutes?
Listen, I believe that we can win this despite Ange Postecoglou, not because of Ange Postecoglou, because these players, your Mickey van der Ven, who've had a shocking season, can come in and turn the season around and end it on a high. Romero is a winner. He wins tournaments. He's won tournaments. He's won 2 Copa Americas. He's won the World Cup. He's won Italian Defender of the Year. He's been in all the top teams in all the tournaments. Winners, right? Son has won competitions. He's won the Olympics. He's won, right? So we have got players with the experience, and I think we really could do something. We really could.
What do we need?
Turn up.
What do we need in the first leg to take to the away leg to? Like Liverpool 1-0 wasn't enough, right? But if we took 2-0 to Liverpool, it might have been a different game, right? Maybe not. But against Frankfurt, is 1-0 enough as a home scoreline?
I think you need to listen. If we lose the game at home or draw, I think it's curtains. I mean, I'll go with hope, but we need 2-0 minimum.
Niall's saying 3. Ronnie's saying 3.
Yeah.
Let us know. 3-goal lead, Sean says. Jimmy, let us know quickly. Anyone? Throw in your scorelines. What do we need?
Minimum of 2-0 minimum.
You're saying minimum 2-0 or 2 goals, yeah? Because away gols don't count.
No, they don't count for anything.
So 2 goal. You want a 2-goal cushion. These boys are saying 3-goal cushion. I think 1 goal would be curtains. 1 goal would be curtains. So 2-goal lead minimum. Yeah. And do you think that the Tottenham, like playing at home first leg, I think the fans will be up for it, but
not ideal.
It's an absolute disgrace, by the way. It's an absolute disgrace. The entire advantage of having to fight to be in the front 8 only counts for the last 16. Like, it's a disgrace. It should count. It should carry over.
Correct.
Like, if you rank 4th, then the only time you should be playing at home first is if you happen to play against 3rd, 2nd, or 1st ranked teams.
Correct. 100%. 100%. If you're playing, I mean, it's ridiculous. That's why I made the mistake and thinking that the 17th was the date away game.
But you say that you made a mistake, bro. I remember I said, I've just paid 900 quid or whatever it was for the final ticket, not knowing if we'll get there. But then people reached out to me on Twitter going, "Why did you do that?" I mean, what do you mean? And they went, aren't you going to get a ticket anyway if you have a season ticket? And I was like, oh shit, would my season ticket get me a ticket? And they're like, yeah. So I think if Tottenham do get there, then I might have like a spare ticket that's cost me 900 quid.
Well, you can always sell it. You can always sell it on. And always sell it on.
Yeah. Well, listen, we've got a lot to talk about before then. Listen, mate, it's been a good one.
I'm just going to add, you know what? I mean, if anyone out there is a DH Gate fan, I was flicking through yesterday. I was absolutely shocked. You know what DH Gate is selling right now? Next season's home kit and next season's away black kit.
It's a nice away kit. I like that away kit.
So yeah, get on down to DH Gate.
Is DH Gate legit though? Like, are they legit or are they just copies? Like, I mean, are they? Because
Sure. I just ordered both of them, right?
Or did you? How much are they each?
Oh, it cost me a fortune. I'm working it off. 21 quid for the 2.
£21 for the 2.
So what's the worst that can happen? I use it as a duster.
Yeah. Dust off that trophy cabinet, eh? Make some space, Johnny, because we're going to go to Bilbao. And like I said last night, listen, at the worst, even if Tottenham get knocked out by Frankfurt, a few days away in Bilbao, as long as I get my old VPN up and I can get access Viva Street in Bilbao, I'll have a good time. I'll have a good time there no matter what happens. You know? But, yeah, listen, mate, we all make mistakes in life. You've obviously booked yourself a nice... You must have been like, Jesus, these flights are cheap.
Well, they weren't cheap. No, the flights cost... My flight costs 300, just over 300 quid. Then I've got to put the car in the thing, which is another 50 quid. Then I've got to put the hotel. I mean, honestly, I'm going to end up spending 600-700 quid.
And the home games, the home game is
the home game could all be over. And the worst part is when I come out of the stadium and I do my videos and I'm a bit upset, I'll have someone say to me, "Call yourself a fan. You're not a fan."
Oh, listen, mate.
I don't need people like you.
Like I said yesterday, mate. People need to realise that they the thing that has always drawn their hatred of others for other people telling you how to support your club, right? It's fans like you, or if you're not Levy out, you're part of the problem. Those people always got the anguish and the ire and the fire from certain other people for telling others how to support your team. And those people right now are doing exactly the same thing. And it's really sad that they can't see the irony and they can't see the hypocrisy that should be staring everyone straight in the face. I would encourage everybody to remember this. In a world where you can be anything, be nice. Just be nice. Accept the fact that people don't see the world through the same viewpoint as you, and it makes for a good conversation. Just be nice, love each other, or at least don't hate each other, and get on with it. You know.
I thought you were going to say, in a world of cities and Uniteds, there's only one Tottenham Hotspur. I thought you were going to say something.
Johnny, you probably didn't see my stream last night, right? But I said, Sean Butler TV, my second channel, might be moving into other content topics because I've got other passions in my life. I might be doing a little bit more about conspiracy theories. I might be talking about the aliens, and I might be talking about the Egyptian pyramids and all this stuff. And ultimately, I've already found my my kind of ending catchphrase. I'm not saying these are aliens, but it sure as hell wasn't humans. As always, people, good night. I'll see you on the next one. Johnny, where can people find you, mate?
You can find me here on where am I at? Johnny H3232 on on Johnny H3232 on X. And as I said before, if you're on Instagram or TikTok, please give us a follow on Talking Tottenham 1882. The TikTok one I've just started, and it's got a long way to go. But my my Instagram one's moving along nicely again after I lost both of them in January due to a short clip, and a very short clip. I think it's about 8-second clip of Vuskovic scoring a header. If you want to get your Fripney bits out, that's not a problem on any of these socials.
Oh yeah, stabbings. If you want to stab someone and capture
you
it
want
on
any
camera,
of that stuff, that's fine. But
yeah.
show a Vuskovic goal, breach of copyright, you're out. So I have to stick to be very, very careful what we post now. So, but thanks anyone for the support. Sean will no doubt doing some more this week.
Oh yeah, for sure. But guys, do me a favor if you haven't already, hit the like button on the way out. Appreciate it. Hit the subscribe on Spurs Talk Show. Make sure if you can
hit some comments.
Yeah, drop the comments in. Drop the Football Inc. a little like and subscribe as well. And I hope after today's episode on Football Inc. then we've got over the necessary thresholds to be able to help Jonny monetize it. And because this man has been incredibly gracious with his time, not just on this channel, but obviously on every channel that wants him. And over the last 2-3 years, Jonny, you've been doing this now. And I've said to him from day one, mate, you're too good not to have your own channel. But he didn't want to do it by himself in the initial instance. But that's why we're doing Football Inc. But it's going to be his baby. And so if you appreciate Jonny, then please let Football Inc. thrive. And you can do that by hitting the like and the sub. Appreciate you all, guys. I know it was a long stream as always, 2 hours. We said beforehand, an hour tops, Jonny, an hour tops. But we'll leave it there, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment, and all that jazz. And we'll see you on the next one. As always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Oh, hang on.